What if everything you fought to become was the one thing that could destroy your past? We're told that success requires sacrifice, but what if the price is your own soul? Most people believe that to win in the high-stakes world of power and money, you have to leave your heart behind. But I'm here to tell you that's a dangerous lie. The truth is, your past never really leaves you. In a shocking turn of events, a top corporate lawyer who agrees to defend a small family farm was left completely speechless when she discovered that her first love was the rival attorney hired to destroy it. This is a story that proves that your greatest conflict will often come wearing a familiar face. On one side, we have Maya Morris, a brilliant, sharpened attorney who thrives in the concrete jungle, a millionaire in the making who has mastered the art of war in the courtroom. On the other, Xavier Gonzales, an equally ambitious and ruthless lawyer, now the weapon of choice for a powerful developer who sees a family's heritage as nothing more than a roadblock. Their worlds were never supposed to collide again. But destiny, as it often does, had a twisted sense of humor, placing them on opposite sides of a battle that was about much more than just land. It was a battle for memory, for redemption, and for a love story they both thought was long buried. This is the story of what happens when your greatest professional challenge is also your deepest personal wound. It's a heart-aching tale of a reunion that nobody saw coming and a plot twist that will force both of them to question every choice they've ever made. They were each other's first love, and now they are each other's greatest rival. Before we dive into this incredibly emotional story, help us feel connected to our amazing community. Let us know in the comments what beautiful city you're watching from right now so we can know how far our story has reached. And don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what happens next, and share this video with someone you think will be as touched by this story as we are. Well, isn't it funny how life works? 1 minute, you're on top of the world, a top-tier corporate lawyer in a city of glass and steel, and the next, you're taking a case that makes absolutely no sense on paper. That was Maya Morris. She had the corner office, the power suits, and a reputation for being surgically precise in her legal battles. Yet, a plea to defend a small family-owned farm somehow cut through all that noise, feeling less like a choice and more like destiny calling her name. Her partners at the firm just couldn't wrap their heads around it. Why trade a multi-millionaire client's merger for a dusty pro bono case? They saw it as a career misstep, a strange detour. But for Maya, it felt like a homecoming. An emotional current was pulling her towards this fight, a strange, heart-hugging feeling she hadn't experienced since she was a girl. This wasn't about the money. This was about a chance at a different kind of victory, a personal redemption she hadn't even realized she was looking for. The day of the preliminary hearing arrived, crisp and impersonal like the conference room where it was held. Maya was in her element, every document memorized, every argument sharpened to a razor's edge. She was prepared for any conflict, ready to dismantle the opposition's case piece by piece. The lawyer representing the developers was just a name on a page, another faceless adversary in a long line of them. She was a warrior, expecting the battle of wits, not a devastating surprise from her past. And then, in a twist of fate that no one could have written, he walked through the door. It wasn't just any rival, it was him, Xavier Gonzales. Her first love. The world around Maya Morris tilted on its axis, and for a moment, she was utterly and completely speechless. All the air was sucked out of the room, the legal jargon and corporate stakes vanishing into thin air. In their place was the ghost of a teenage love story, a haunting and beautiful memory now standing before her as the enemy. This was a plot twist of epic proportions. The silence that fell between them was thick with unspoken history, a movie playing out in shocked glances across a mahogany table. This wasn't just a legal case anymore, it was a reunion she had never, in her wildest dreams, prepared for. The Boy she remembered was gone, replaced by a man with a hardened gaze and a suit that probably cost more than her first car. The surprise wasn't just in seeing him, but in the chilling realization of the man had become. This was more than just a rival lawyer, this was a ghost. This single heart-stopping moment redraws the entire battlefield. The fight for the farm is no longer a simple matter of property law, it's now deeply personal. A tangled web of past promises and present betrayals. The conflict is now about their shared history, a heart-aching story that started on that very piece of land. The stage is set for an emotional war, and she could already feel the ghosts of their past whispering, wondering how this collision of worlds would ever be resolved. It didn't take long for the walls Maya had built around her heart to show cracks. Back in the city, emotions were a liability, a weakness a rival could exploit. But out here, with the scent of earth and hay in the air, things were different. Defending this farm wasn't just another case file. It was an emotional anchor pulling her back to a version of herself she thought was long gone. Every legal brief she wrote felt less like a document and more like a love letter to the land, a defense of her own forgotten roots. This deep, personal investment was a foreign feeling. She was a lawyer who dealt in facts, figures, and loopholes, big enough to drive a millionaire's limousine through. Yet here she was, feeling the weight of this family's history on her shoulders, their potential loss becoming her own. This wasn't about winning for the sake of victory, it was about protecting a sanctuary. The case became a heart-aching mission, a fight for something pure in a world that had taught her to be cynical. She found herself walking the fields in the evenings, the city skyline a distant memory. This place, so different from her sterile office, felt more like home than any apartment she'd ever owned. The conflict was no longer just in the courtroom, it was inside her. The polished corporate warrior was at war with the girl who grew up believing in things that couldn't be bought or sold. This battle for the farm was slowly turning into a battle for her own soul, a quest for a personal redemption. The stark contrast between her two worlds became jarringly clear. One day she was arguing multi-million-dollar contracts. The next she was listening to stories about planting seasons and droughts. It was a surprise to her just how much she yearned for the simplicity and authenticity this case represented. This was more than a job, it was a reawakening. Her destiny, it seemed, wasn't just to be a successful lawyer, but to remember what it truly meant to fight for something that matters. This newfound passion was both a strength and a vulnerability. It fueled her with a fire that no amount of money could buy, making her arguments genuine and powerful. But it also made her exposed. The emotional connection made the stakes infinitely higher, turning every legal setback into a personal blow. Her love story with the law had always been a cerebral affair now. It was a matter of the heart, a plot twist in her own life's narrative. And as she prepared to face Xavier Gonzales again, she knew this vulnerability would be her greatest weapon and her biggest risk. He was a lawyer trained to spot and exploit weakness, a rival who knew the cold logic of the game. How could she fight a man like that, the very ghost of her first love, when her own heart was now so dangerously, so openly on the line? The upcoming confrontation felt both inevitable and terrifying. Across the city, in an office that mirrored Maya's in prestige but not in spirit, Xavier Gonzales reviewed the case file. To him, this wasn't a heart-aching story, it was a transaction. The farm was simply the asset, a prime piece of real estate holding up a lucrative development project for his millionaire client. He had built his career on being the guy who gets things done, the lawyer who steamrolls obstacles without a second thought. And this case, he believed, would be no different. It was a simple, clean acquisition. He saw Maya's name on the opposition's counsel and felt a flicker of something annoyance. Mostly, he dismissed her involvement as a sentimental folly, a naive attempt to stand in the way of progress. The surprise of their reunion had been a momentary jolt, but he had quickly compartmentalized it. She was an obstacle, nothing more. Their love story was ancient history, a chapter he had sealed away and had no intention of revisiting. He was a different man now, a ruthless rival. His world was one of power lunches, aggressive negotiations, and the cold, hard calculus of profit and loss. He told himself that sentimentality was a luxury he couldn't afford. The developer he represented was powerful and demanded results, not excuses. Xavier's destiny, as he saw it, was tied to this relentless climb up the corporate ladder. The farm was just a rung on that ladder, and Maya was just someone standing on it, someone he would unfortunately have to push aside. It was nothing personal, just business. The irony of their situation wasn't lost on him, but he chose to ignore it. The fact that their first love had blossomed on the very land he was now trying to seize was a detail he actively suppressed. To acknowledge it would be to invite a conflict within himself, an emotional battle he wasn't prepared to fight. It was easier to see Maya as just another opposing liar, to reduce their shared past to a mere footnote. He couldn't afford to be. Speechless with memories, he had a job to do. He planned his strategy with brutal efficiency. He would overwhelm her with paperwork, drown her in legal motions, and expose the financial futility of her fight. He assumed her defense was based on emotion, not logic, and he was a master of dismantling emotional arguments. He saw this as a clear-cut win, a straightforward path to another successful notch on his belt, inching him closer to his own millionaire ambitions. He was setting the stage for a swift and decisive victory. But as he prepared his attack, a small, nagging thought pricked at the edge of his consciousness. He remembered her fire, her unyielding spirit. Dismissing her as a mere sentimental obstacle felt too simple, almost dangerously so. There was a part of him, a part he refused to acknowledge, that knew the coming conflict with Maya Morris would be far more complicated than he was letting on. A plot twist waiting to unravel his carefully constructed world. The conference room felt like a pressurized chamber, the air thick with more than just professional tension. It was a tangible, crackling energy, a silence filled with the ghosts of their shared past. On one side sat Maya, the passionate defender of a humble farm, her every posture radiating a defiant warmth. On the other, Xavier, the cold corporate lawyer, his expression an unreadable mask of professional detachment. This was their first real legal meeting, and it was a battle before a single word was spoken. The conflict was immediate and profound. They were a universe away from the teenagers who had shared secrets under a starry sky. The reunion was a shock to the system for both of them, a brutal surprise that left them reeling. Maya looked at this polished, ruthless rival and couldn't find a trace of the boy she once loved, the boy who dreamed of things other than money. She was almost speechless, not with awe, but with a deep, aching disappointment. Who was this stranger wearing the face of her first love? Xavier, in turn, was caught off guard by her transformation. He had expected the same sweet, slightly naive girl. Instead, he faced a formidable lawyer, sharp, articulate, and radiating a conviction that was unnerving. Her passion for this case was a plot twist he hadn't anticipated. It wasn't the sentimental weakness he had predicted, it was a powerful, emotional force. This wasn't the Maya from his memories, this was a warrior. Their opening exchanges were clipped and formal, a dance of legal jargon that barely concealed the turmoil beneath. Every motion filed and every objection raised was layered with a double meaning only they could understand. It was a heart-aching tragedy playing out in the most sterile of environments. Their love story had become the subtext for a bitter legal fight, a painful footnote in a property dispute. It felt like a betrayal of their own history, a shared destiny that had soured. Xavier tried to maintain his composure, to stick to the script of the heartless attorney working for a millionaire developer. But Maya's arguments, filled with genuine passion for the family and the land, kept chipping away at his armor. He found his gaze lingering a moment too long, his thoughts drifting back to that farm, to a time when his ambitions were simpler, purer. A dangerous internal conflict was beginning to brew. He saw the hurt in her eyes, a reflection of the shock in his own, and for the first time, he felt a crack in his ruthless facade. They were two people who had once known each other's souls, now reduced to adversaries in a war they never should have been fighting. The meeting ended with no resolution, only a deeper sense of the chasm that now separated them, leaving them both to wonder if any path to redemption was even possible. From here, the battle lines were drawn, not in the sand, but across a courtroom floor. While Xavier's team presented charts, graphs, and projections, all pointing to the immense financial potential of the land for his millionaire client, Maya took a different approach. She didn't talk about money, she talked about memories. She painted a vivid, heart-aching picture of the farm, not as a property asset, but as a living, breathing legacy. It was a strategy that baffled Xavier's purely profit-driven mind. She spoke of first steps taken on the porch, of harvests that saved the family from ruin, of names carved into an old oak tree. Her defense was an emotional tapestry woven from stories, not a cold, hard legal argument. For the jury, she wasn't just a lawyer, she was a storyteller, a guardian of heritage. To Xavier, this was an infuriating and surprisingly effective tactic. It was a surprise to see how her words could hold more weight than his meticulously prepared financial data. He watched, initially with cynical detachment, as she presented old photographs and family heirlooms as evidence. He, the polished rival, saw them as irrelevant trinkets. But he couldn't deny the impact they had. He saw the jury lean in, captivated. He saw them look at the family not as plaintiffs, but as people with a history worth saving. Maya was challenging the very foundation of his worldview, that everything has a price. The central conflict was shifting from legal to moral. This approach began to stir something uncomfortable within him. Her words about legacy and promises echoed in his mind, dredging up memories he had fought so hard to bury. Memories of a time when he too believed in things that couldn't be quantified on a spreadsheet. His first love was standing before him, not just as an opposing lawyer, but as a living embodiment of the ideals he had abandoned. It was a subtle, unnerving plot twist in his own narrative of success. He would leave the courtroom each day, feeling a strange sense of emptiness. His wins on minor legal points felt hollow compared to the powerful narrative Maya was building. He had built a fortress around his heart, and she was dismantling it, stone by stone, with her quiet, passionate defense of something as simple as a home. The ruthless lawyer was beginning to feel the weight of his own cynicism, a precursor to a longa verdu journey toward redemption. The ground beneath his feet was shifting. He had entered this fight seeing a clear path to victory, a simple case of acquisition. But Maya's strategy had changed the rules of the game entirely. She wasn't just defending a farm, she was defending the very idea of home. And as he prepared his next move, he couldn't shake the feeling that by fighting her, he was somehow fighting a younger, better version of himself, a destiny he had long since betrayed. The scent of summer rain on dry earth floods the memory. Two teenagers, barely more than kids, are sitting under the same giant oak tree that now stands as a silent witness in a legal dispute. This is their sanctuary. This is the farm where their love story began. A younger, softer Xavier Gonzales is tracing patterns on Maya's hand, his eyes full of dreams that have nothing to do with becoming a millionaire. There is an innocence here, a heart-aching purity that the world has not yet managed to tarnish. "Promise me," the young Maya says, her voice earnest and clear, "that we'll never become like them. The people in suits who only see land, not a home. The ones who would tear all this down for a profit." He looks at her, his first love, and sees his whole future in her eyes. The idea of becoming that kind of person, a soulless lawyer, is laughable. It's the furthest thing from the destiny he imagines for himself, for them. "I promise," he says, and the words are a sacred vow, sealed with a youthful certainty that feels unbreakable. This place. It's special. It's ours. They'll never forget that. This promise, made in the heart of the very land they now fight over, hangs in the air, a ghostly indictment of their present selves. The plot twist isn't just that they are now on opposite sides, it's that he has become the very villain they swore to despise. It's a profound betrayal. The memory is a sharp, painful surprise, a stark contrast to the bitter conflict of the courtroom. The boy who made that promise is now the man trying to break it. The ruthless rival in the expensive suit is haunted by the ghost of the earnest teenager he once was. This flashback isn't just a glimpse of the past, it's the core of the entire tragedy. The source of a deep, internal war that Xavier is only now beginning to acknowledge. A war that might lead to his redemption. This forgotten vow is the key to the entire emotional puzzle. It explains the depth of Maya's conviction and the source of Xavier's buried turmoil. He isn't just fighting an opposing lawyer, he's fighting against his own sworn word, against the memory of the best version of himself. He's fighting a promise he made to the only person who ever saw his true potential, long before the world convinced him success looked a certain way. And as the memory fades, the harsh reality of the courtroom rushes back in. The echo of that promise makes his current position feel like a desecration. He is left speechless, caught between the man he swore he would be and the man he has become. The promise hangs between them, unspoken but deafeningly loud, forcing him to question every choice he's made since he left that farm behind. What happens when you're forced to confront your own broken vow? Acting on instinct, or perhaps desperation, Xavier tries to put the genie back in the bottle. He decides to end this emotional mess the only way he knows how, with money. He approaches Maya after a court session, his professional mask firmly back in place. He slides a folder across the table, his voice devoid of warmth. It's a settlement offer, a generous one by any standard, enough to make the family millionaire. Farmers overnight. It is a cold, corporate solution from a top-tier lawyer. He expects relief, perhaps even gratitude. In his world, this is how you solve a conflict. You find the right number, and the problem goes away. He presents it as a win-win, a logical end to a draining fight. But he misjudges her completely. He forgets who he's dealing with, not just the skilled rival attorney, but the woman whose principles he once knew so well. The surprise on his face is evident when she doesn't even open the folder. Maya looks at the offer, then looks at him, her eyes flashing with a fire he hasn't seen since they were teenagers. "You still don't get it, do you?" she says, her voice low, but fierce. She pushes the folder back across the table. "You can put a price on a legacy. You can't buy a home. Some things, Xavier, are not for sale." Her rejection is absolute. A slap in the face to his entire value system. He is left, once again, completely speechless. Her defiance is a powerful statement. It's not a negotiating tactic, it's a declaration of war on his cynical worldview. In that moment, the fight for the farm becomes a clear battle of ideals. It's the heart-aching belief in heritage versus the cold calculus of profit. Her rejection isn't just about the case, it's personal. It's a condemnation of the man he has become. The man who thinks a check can solve a problem of the soul. A path to redemption seems further away than ever. This failed attempt at a settlement is a critical plot twist. It forces Xavier to realize he can't escape the emotional core of this case. There is no easy way out. He can't just throw money at the ghost of his first love and make her disappear. He is stuck, forced to confront the very issues he has been avoiding. His clean, simple acquisition has become a messy, complicated quagmire, all because of her unshakable integrity. He watches her walk away, the rejected offer sitting between them like a tombstone for their shared past. The reunion he had tried to keep professional has now been irrevocably personalized. He is forced to see her not as an opponent to be beaten, but as a standard he is failing to meet. The destiny he chose for himself suddenly feels cheap and hollow, and he knows the next stage of this fight will be far more brutal than he ever imagined. The day of opening statements arrives. The courtroom is hushed, expectant. Xavier's opening is what everyone expects from a high-powered lawyer, sharp, logical, and focused on the law and the future development. It's a competent, professional performance. Then, it's Maya's turn. She walks to the center of the room, not with a stack of notes, but with a quiet confidence that commands attention. She isn't there to argue points of law, she's there to tell a love story. She begins not by addressing the judge, but by speaking directly to the jury, her voice filled with a sincere, emotional resonance. She speaks of home, not the structure of a house, but the feeling of belonging, the roots that run deeper than any foundation. She talks about the farm as a living diary, its fields holding generations of joy, sorrow, and perseverance. It's a heartaching narrative that transforms the case from a property dispute into a universal human drama. Her words are a surprise, even to those who thought they knew her strategy. She paints a picture so vivid that the jury can almost feel the sun on their faces and smell the freshly tilled earth. This isn't the argument of a sentimentalist, it's the powerful testimony of a believer, and it works. She connects with them on a level that Xavier, with all his corporate polish, could never reach. She makes them feel that they too are guardians of this legacy. A subtle plot twist unfolds as the jury becomes emotionally invested. And then there's Xavier, the rival. He sits at his table, trying to maintain his stony-faced composure, but it's a losing battle. A crack appears in his hardened exterior. Her words, so genuine and pure, are a direct echo of the boy he used to be, the boy who once shared those very sentiments with her. Each word she speaks is a small hammer blow against the wall he's built around his heart. For a moment, he isn't a millionaire's attorney, he's just a man being reminded of a profound loss. This is more than just a brilliant legal maneuver, it's a moment of truth. Maya's speech does more than just win over the jury, it lands a direct hit on Xavier's soul. He is visibly shaken, a flicker of vulnerability in his eyes that doesn't go unnoticed. The conflict is no longer just between him and her, it's raging inside him. She has managed to make him a juror in his own trial, judging the man he has become. He is left momentarily speechless, disarmed by her sincerity. The courtroom is silent for a long moment after she finishes, the weight of her words hanging in the air. The power has shifted. Maya has shown that some arguments can't be countered with logic or money. She has taken a stand for the intangible, for the soul of a place. The path to Xavier's redemption has just been illuminated, but it is paved with the wreckage of his own ambition. The destiny of this case now feels entirely different. The fallout from Maya's opening statement is immediate. Xavier gets a call from his client, the millionaire developer, and the message is chillingly clear. They are not pleased. They saw the jury's reaction, the emotional shift in the room. They don't pay their star lawyer to be upstaged by a heartaching story. They pay for results, for victory, at any cost. The pressure is immense, his career hanging in the balance. Bury her, his boss snarls, I don't care how you do it. This ultimatum throws Xavier into a full-blown moral crisis. The demand to win at all costs pushes him directly against the flickering flame of his own conscience, a flame that Maya had so expertly rekindled. The conflict is no longer a distant, theoretical problem, it's a visceral, tearing force within him. On one side is everything. He has worked for the money, the prestige, the power. On the other is the memory of the man Maya once loved, a ghost from the farm whispering about promises and integrity. He is trapped. To follow his boss's orders would mean resorting to dirtier tactics, attacking the family's credibility, and trying to paint Maya as a manipulative, overly emotional rival. It would mean becoming the exact monster he and his first love had once promised each other they would never be. It would mean extinguishing any hope of redemption. The choice before him is a plot twist of his own making, a fork in the road of his destiny. The pressure is suffocating. He paces his office late at night, the city lights glittering below, a kingdom he built on ruthless efficiency. But for the first time, it all feels hollow. The potential victory feels like a poisoned chalice. A surprise to him is how deeply Maya's words have burrowed into his mind. He can't shake the image of her face in the courtroom, filled with a conviction he now envies. The love story he had dismissed as irrelevant is now the central pillar of his internal trial. This is the moment of truth for Xavier Gonzales. Will he double down on the ambition that has defined his adult life, or will he listen to the echoes of a promise made on that farm so long ago? The weight of this decision leaves him feeling isolated and speechless. He is at war with himself, and the stakes are nothing less than his own soul. He is the villain of a story he never intended to write, and he's not sure how to change the ending. He knows that his next move in court will define him, not just as a lawyer, but as a man. The path of least resistance is to crush Maya and the family, securing his career and his status. But another path, shrouded in uncertainty and professional ruin, calls to him. It's the path back to the man he was supposed to be. The choice he makes will determine whether this story ends in tragedy or with an unexpected act of grace. Back at the farm, seeking solace in strategy, Maya delves into old boxes of documents stored in the attic. She's looking for anything that might help her cache old deeds, letters, anything to bolster the family's claim to the land. The air is thick with the dust of generations, a heart-aching scent of history. It's here, tucked away inside a dusty old book, that she finds it. A small, faded photograph. A surprise that stops her heart for a beat. It's a picture of her and Xavier. They are teenagers, sitting on the porch swing of this very farmhouse, beaming with a joy so pure it feels like a relic from another civilization. He has his arm around her, and she's leaning into him, both of them captured in a moment of perfect, unguarded happiness. It's a snapshot of their love story, a testament to the first love that had defined her youth. The photo is a powerful, tangible piece of the very memories she is fighting for. Holding the picture, Maya feels a fresh wave of resolve wash over her. This is why she's fighting. It's not just for a family she has grown to care for, or for a piece of land. It's for this. For the belief that memories matter, that history has a soul, that some things are sacred. The photograph isn't just a picture, it's proof. Proof that the boy in this photo existed, and proof that the ruthless lawyer he has become is a tragic deviation, not his true destiny. The emotional weight of the discovery strengthens her more than any legal precedent could. This small square of paper becomes her shield and her sword. It reminds her that her rival is not a monster, but a man who has lost his way. The conflict feels even more profound now. She isn't just trying to win a case, she is fighting for the memory of the boy in the picture, hoping that somehow he can still be reached. It's a fight for his redemption as much as it is for the farm. She carefully places the photo in her briefcase, a secret weapon of the heart. It's a plot twist for her own motivation, crystallizing her purpose. She is no longer just defending a client, she is defending the past itself from being bulldozed and paved over by a cold, millionaire-funded future. The image fuels her, erasing any doubt or fear she might have had. She is ready for the next battle, armed with the undeniable truth of what this place once meant to both of them. As she leaves the attic, the dust motes dancing in the afternoon light, she feels a strange sense of peace. The fight ahead is daunting, and Xavier, the corporate lawyer, will be more ruthless than ever under the pressure from his bosses. But now she has a secret. She has the ghost of their shared happiness on her side, a silent witness to the promise he had long forgotten. And somehow she knows that will make all the difference. The pressure cooker of the trial finally boils over. After a particularly brutal day in court, where Xavier, acting on his boss's orders, relentlessly examines the elderly farmer, Maya confronts him on the courthouse steps. The professional facade shatters, and years of suppressed emotions erupt. It's a raw, heated argument, the conflict between them laid bare for anyone to see. The lawyer and his rival are gone, leaving only two people with a deeply fractured history. "Is this who you wanted to be?" she asks, her voice trembling, with a mixture of anger and sorrow. "The man who bullies old men for a living? The man who helps a greedy millionaire pave over people's lives?" Xavier tries to retort with cold logic, talking about his duty to his client, but his words sound hollow even to himself. This reunion of their fiery spirits is more intense than any courtroom battle, a truly emotional clash. Then, Maya delivers. The blow that no legal training could have prepared him for. "You know, the boy I knew, the one I fell in love with on that farm, he had a soul. What a surprise it is to see you now. I guess you traded it for the corner office and the big paycheck." The accusation hangs in the air between them, sharp and devastating. She didn't just question his tactics, she questioned his very essence, his humanity. It strikes him deeper than any objection or counter-argument ever could. He is left utterly speechless. There is no defense against that statement. It's a truth he has been running from for years, a truth that has finally cornered him. In that moment, he sees himself through her eyes, a hollow man, a caricature of success. Her words are not a legal maneuver, they are a judgment on his life's choices. The plot twist is that his greatest vulnerability wasn't a flaw in his case, but a flaw in his character. The accusation of a traded soul becomes a turning point. It's the catalyst for the crack in his exterior to splinter into a full-blown fissure. The memory of their love story, of his first love, is no longer a nostalgic ache but a searing indictment. He had told himself this was just a job, but Maya's words force him to confront the reality that his job has cost him everything that once mattered. The path to redemption now seems like a climb up a sheer cliff. He watches her walk away, her words echoing in the sudden silence. The victory he was so ruthlessly pursuing now feels like ashes in his mouth. He has been professionally successful, but she has just declared him morally bankrupt. And the most terrifying part? He knows she's right. The destiny he had so carefully crafted for himself had led him to this empty, soulless place on the courthouse steps. He is lost. The accusation of having traded his soul haunts Xavier relentlessly. It follows him from the courthouse, shadows him in his high-rise apartment, and echoes in the silence of his empty life. Unable to bear the weight of it, he does something he hasn't done in 15 years. He drives. He drives away from the city, away from the life he built, and towards the one he abandoned. Under the cover of darkness, the successful lawyer secretly returns to the farm. He parks his luxury car down the road and walks onto the property like a thief in the night. The air is different here, clean, alive, filled with the scent of memories. He stands before the old farmhouse, a silhouette against the moonlit fields. It's a heart-aching, ghostly scene. This is not the rival attorney or the millionaire's bulldog. This is just Xavier, a man searching for a piece of himself he lost long ago. This pilgrimage is the first real step toward his redemption. He walks to the old oak tree, its branches like ancient arms reaching for the stars. He runs his hand over the rough bark, and the years melt away. He is no longer the ruthless lawyer engaged in a bitter conflict. He is the boy who made a promise in this very spot. The emotional weight of his betrayal crashes down on him. He had traded all of this authenticity and history, for a world of glass and steel. The surprise is how much it still hurts. This clandestine visit is a profound reunion, not with Maya, but with his own past. He is reconnecting with the values he had dismissed as naive and sentimental. Here, under the quiet gaze of the stars, the arguments of profit and progress seem absurd. All that matters is the feeling of the earth beneath his feet and the echo of a love story that was more real than any contract he had ever drafted. His first love was tied inextricably to this land. He feels the full weight of his actions, the reality of what he is trying to destroy. This isn't just an asset on a balance sheet, it's a sanctuary. It was his sanctuary too. The plot twist he now understands is that in trying to tear down this farm, he has been trying to tear down the last remaining part of his own true identity. He stands there for hours, speechless, as the past and present wage a war for his soul. As dawn approaches, he walks away from the farm a changed man. The conflict is no longer a choice between his career and his conscience. It's now a desperate need to fix what he has broken. He doesn't know how, but he knows he can't continue on his current path. His destiny is not to be the villain of this story. Haunted by the ghost of a promise and the accusation of a soulless existence, he now knows he must find a different way to end this fight. Driven by a need to understand the man her first love had become, Maya does some digging of her own. She doesn't look for legal weaknesses but for personal history. What she uncovers is a surprise that reframes the entire conflict. She learns that Xavier didn't come from a world of privilege. His relentless ambition, his desperate climb to become a top lawyer and associate with the millionaire class, was fueled by a painful, impoverished past. His family had lost everything, a trauma that forged his belief that money was the only real security. This discovery is a heart-aching revelation for Maya. Suddenly, the ruthless rival she faced in court is no longer a one-dimensional villain. She sees the scared, determined boy beneath the hardened exterior, a boy who vowed to never be powerless again. His ambition wasn't born from greed, but from fear. This doesn't excuse his actions, but it explains them. It humanizes him in a way that changes everything for her, a plot twist in her own emotional landscape. She understands now that his identity as a lawyer was a suit of armor, built to protect a deep vulnerability. The man who seemed to have traded his soul was in fact desperately trying to save it in the only way he knew how. Her anger towards him begins to soften, replaced by a complex mix of sorrow and empathy. Their love story wasn't just a casualty of his ambition, it was a sacrifice on the altar of his survival. His path to redemption was more complicated than she knew. This new perspective allows her to see their reunion not just as a battle, but as a tragedy. Two people, shaped by their pasts, set on a collision course by destiny. She thinks back to their argument on the courthouse steps. Her accusation, while true on the surface, now feels cruel. She had struck at his deepest wound without even knowing it. She had judged the man without understanding the journey that had left him so scarred. This knowledge doesn't change her resolve to save the farm, but it changes her motivation. She is no longer fighting against a monster. She is fighting for the man she believes is still buried deep inside him. She is fighting for the boy in the photograph, the one who was forced to make impossible choices. The conflict becomes less about winning and more about healing, about finding a resolution that doesn't require the complete destruction of one of them. She looks at the case files on her table, but she's not just seeing legal arguments anymore. She's seeing the story of two lives, intertwined and broken. He is no longer just the opposing counsel, he is Xavier, a man haunted by his past, just as she is. And as she prepares for the final stages of the trial, she finds herself speechless, wondering if there is a way to save both the farm and the man it helped create. While preparing for the final push, digging through discovery documents with a newfound sense of dread, Xavier stumbles upon it. It's buried deep in an appendix of an environmental report, something his clients, the millionaire developers, likely assumed no one would ever read closely. But Xavier, the meticulous lawyer, reads everything. It's evidence of illegal dumping on a nearby property, a deliberate falsification of reports to cut costs. His clients aren't just greedy, they're criminals. The discovery hits him like a physical blow. This is the ultimate plot twist, the one that shatters his entire reality. He is in an impossible position. He has a legal and ethical duty as an officer of the court, but he also has a duty to his client. To expose this evidence would be to detonate a bomb under his own career. He would be blacklisted, his reputation destroyed. He would be betraying the very people who had made him a success. He would be turning on the machine he had worked so hard to become a part of. The conflict is no longer abstract or emotional, it is a clear, stark choice. Patha bury the evidence, betray his conscience, and win the case for the farm's destruction, secure in his career, but losing the last shred of his soul. Path B, expose his clients, betray them, and face professional ruin, but take the first concrete step on the painful road to redemption. His destiny has led him to this single career-defining, soul-defining moment. He thinks of Maya. He thinks of her unwavering integrity, her fight for something more than money. He thinks of her accusation that he had traded his soul. Now he literally holds that choice in his hands. This evidence is a surprise test from the universe, asking him to finally decide who he is. Is he the ruthless rival who wins at all costs? Or is he the man his first love once believed he could be? The weight of the decision leaves him speechless. The irony is almost too much to bear. All this time, he had been fighting a clean fight. On the surface, believing his cause, while perhaps morally questionable, was at least legal. Now he knows he's on the side of corruption. He's the lawyer for the bad guys, not just in a heart-aching story, but in the eyes of the law. His entire case, his entire career, feels like a lie. He sits in his office all night, the incriminating document on his desk glowing like a cursed object. The choice is agonizing. To expose the truth would be to give Maya and the farm the victory. It would mean sacrificing everything he thought he ever wanted for the woman he has been fighting. It would be the ultimate surrender, and perhaps the only way to win back his own life. The final act of this love story was not going to be what anyone expected. The night before the final arguments, the air is thick with anticipation. But instead of preparing his closing statement, Xavier does something unthinkable. He goes to Maya. He finds her at her small hotel, looking exhausted but resolute. When she opens the door, the man standing there is not the polished, arrogant lawyer she has been fighting. The professional mask is gone. In his place is a man who looks broken, lost, and utterly defeated. This reunion feels different, stripped of all pretense. "I can't do it," he says, his voice barely a whisper. He doesn't need to explain. The raw vulnerability in his eyes says everything. He looks speechless, as if the words themselves are a betrayal of his entire career. He admits his conflict, not in specifics about the evidence, but in the emotional turmoil that is tearing him apart. He confesses that the fight for the farm has forced him to see the man he has become, and he doesn't recognize him. This is a surprise that Maya was not prepared for. She had expected a final brutal assault in court, not this heart-aching surrender. She sees the vulnerable man she had recently discovered, the boy from the past who was so terrified of failure. His confession is not a tactic, it's a plea for understanding, perhaps even for forgiveness. The rival is gone, and what's left is the ghost of her first love, grappling with his destiny. He doesn't offer a deal or a settlement. This isn't a negotiation. It's a confession. He hints that the trial will not proceed as planned, that he cannot, in good conscience, deliver the closing argument that would seal the farm's fate. He speaks of promises and souls, echoing the very words she had thrown at him. It's a moment of profound connection, a plot twist where the battle lines dissolve into a shared human moment. His journey toward redemption is beginning, right here in this hotel hallway. Maya listens, her heart aching for him. She sees the immense weight he is carrying, the impossible choice he is facing. The millionaire's lawyer is ready to sacrifice everything. Their tragic love story has come full circle, not with a romantic rekindling, but with a moment of shared moral clarity. She offers no easy absolution, but her expression softens with an empathy that gives him a sliver of peace. He leaves without a clear plan, only a certainty of what he cannot do. Maya is left standing in the doorway, realizing the conflict is about to end in a way she never could have imagined. She doesn't know what he will do in the courtroom tomorrow, but she knows he has finally chosen his soul over his success. The final act was coming, and she had a feeling it would be a spectacle of professional sacrifice and personal salvation. The final day in court arrives. The room is buzzing. Maya gives a powerful, emotional closing argument, a final plea for the farm's heritage. Then all eyes turn to Xavier. He stands, his face pale but resolute. His bosses, the millionaire developers, sit in the front row, expecting a masterful closing argument from their star lawyer. They are about to get the surprise of their lives. Xavier looks at the judge, then at Maya, and takes a deep breath. He begins not with an argument, but with a confession. "Your Honor," he says, his voice clear and steady, "new evidence has come to my attention that fundamentally changes the nature of this case." He proceeds to introduce the environmental report, the evidence of his own client's illegal activities. Gasps ripple through the courtroom. He is intentionally sabotaging his own case. It's a stunning, unthinkable plot twist. He is not just losing the case, he is immolating his career on the stand. His bosses are furious, their faces a mask of disbelief and rage. But Xavier doesn't look at them. He looks at Maya, and in his eyes, she sees the boy from the farm, the one who made a promise under an oak tree. This is his act of redemption. He is sacrificing everything: his reputation, his career, his wealth to do the right thing, to honor the memory of their love story and the integrity of his first love. He is proving that some things are more valuable than victory. The courtroom is thrown into chaos. The judge calls for order, his face a mixture of shock and grudging respect. Xavier, the ruthless rival, has just become the hero of the story. He has chosen conscience over conflict, truth over triumph. He has given Maya the win, but it's more than that. He has given her back the man she thought was lost forever. In the midst of the legal wreckage, it is a profoundly heartaching moment. He stands there, a lawyer who has just committed professional suicide, but he looks freer than she has ever seen him. He has faced his destiny and rewritten it. The case is effectively over. The farm is safe. The developers will now face a criminal investigation. Xavier will be disbarred, his life as a high-powered attorney finished. But in losing everything, he has won back his soul. Maya sits at her table, speechless. Tears stream down her face, but they are not tears of victory. They are tears of awe, of sorrow for his sacrifice, and of a deep, abiding love for the man who had finally come home. Their reunion had started as a battle and ended as a sacrifice. The final shocking act wasn't about law or land, it was about love and the incredible, painful, beautiful path to redemption. And so, a battle that began with a legal notice ended with an act of profound sacrifice. What a journey! We witnessed a conflict that was more than just a courtroom drama, it was a fight for the soul. We saw how a first love and a buried love story could re-emerge as a powerful force for redemption. Xavier's final act wasn't just a plot twist, it was a testament to the idea that it's never too late to find your way back, even if it costs you everything you thought you wanted. This heart-aching story reminds us that true victory isn't about winning, but about becoming the person you were always meant to be. This was such an emotional story to share with you all, and we are so grateful to have you with us. If this story of love, loss, and redemption touched you, Please give this video a like to show your support. We truly want to know what you think. What part of this story impacted you the most? Was it Maya's unwavering resolve or Xavier's ultimate sacrifice? Let us know in the comments below. Did you expect a different ending, or did you love the shocking desfecho? Your engagement means the world to us. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on more stories like this one. We have a library full of older videos that we think you'll love, so be sure to check them out after this. And of course, keep an eye out for our next video. You won't want to miss it. Thank you for being the best part of our community.